Welcome to this episode of the Gadfly and the People. I am your host, Christopher James Curry. This is the Gadfly and the People. This is episode 2, our second episode. The first episode, I'm very happy with how well it did, in all honesty. I thought there was a really good reception, a very good reception from those who listened and watched it. We have, where am I here? Here we go. We have lots of things we have to talk about, lots of things to discuss. First and foremost, to those of you who watched, this is not how I wanted to start episode 2, but we're going to ride with it. To those of you who watched it or listened to it if you watched it on YouTube or if you listened to it on Spotify and Apple, thank you. I appreciate it. Last I checked, we had over 100 views on YouTube, which is, I'm really happy with that. I'm stoked about that. I didn't think it would do that well. And we have at least 21 downloads on the Spotify and Apple. So, very happy about that. It's good. It's a good feeling when you can kind of put something out there and people like it, and people give it a shot at least. And I guess we're going to see whether or not people liked the first one enough to listen to the second one. But I'm happy with that. I was very happy with how things turned out. So there are a few concerns that I do have, and I'm going to have to address them, because if we're going to keep this thing going, we're going to need to figure out a lot of things. First and foremost is the editing. We're going to have to figure out a way to expedite the editing. And once we do that, I think we're going to be in a good position. It just took me too long to edit it. I mean, partially it was my first time ever putting something like this, this is going to sound really pretentious, but putting something as high level and technical as this together it's the first time I ever done it. So, and don't get me wrong, it's definitely doable, but there was a lot more that went into it than I thought. So, but now I think, since I kind of have everything down and I kind of know what I want a video to look like, and I know how I want the audio to sound, and I kind of know how to project my voice and all these variables that I hadn't previously thought of, I think we're going to be in a good position. I do. And I think the things that will have to improve the most are definitely the lighting. And by the way, I want to address Julia, the lighting. I had to record it during the day. I hadn't quite figured out the lighting situation, and it was kind of the same thing with the audio. If it's this bad, it will only get better. Originally, I had recorded an episode at night, or the first episode at night, and I just didn't like the way that the episode went, so I ended up scratching it. But the lighting was much better in that. But the audio in the first one was better than the first time I recorded, so I figured I'd rather have good audio. And yeah, but the audio, I think the lighting here tonight is better. It's a cold January night, and they canceled school tomorrow. I still have to go to work, which, I wish we had snow days for work. No rest for the wicked. So yeah, the visual component, Julia, I'm addressing the lighting, and I want you to know that I'm specifically thinking about your comment. So there's that. The audio will slowly improve as I figure out little tweaks that I can make here and there. As I learn a little bit more, the audio will improve. So, also, the thing that I wanted to address with the visual component, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do it every single time, just because when the visual component adds a lot more to editing. And part of it's fun because there's more stuff that I can do and little things that I can do to make the show entertaining or funny or to put emphasis on points. So that's always a bonus, but it's just a lot more editing. And actually, but the thing, to be fair, that I found the most that I had to do with editing the visual component was the zoom ins and the zoom outs and other little technical things. Most of the editing was actually with the audio, so maybe, I don't know. Our natural disposition and our default setting, if you will, would be to have the visual component. That'll be kind of the default. At times, we're gonna have to kind of, I'm not feeling it today, and I'm just gonna record, and yeah. But the default position is that I guess we're going to use the audio recording. Excuse me, I'm tired. I don't know why I'm tired. I was having quite a good day. Another thing that I wanted to address, somebody brought up whether or not the ideas that I have in particular for the locals, whether or not they're scalable. And I want to address those comments and say, I don't really care, Dan Heffron, if they are scalable. You don't ask if a party is scalable. You just ask if you have enough money for booze and food and music. You don't care whether or not it's scalable. You care whether or not it's affordable. And, well, as soon as we find out that something's not in our best interest, we're just gonna cut it out. And I'm just gonna be like, I don't have time for this. Or we're gonna grow and evolve and cut back where we need to and supply what is deficient where we need to. But at this point, this early on, I don't care about scalability. It's a party. I'd like to give a few updates to the podcast. We have some potential interview options. The guy, the gentleman that I was speaking about earlier, well, not earlier, but last week, the head of the math department where I go to school. I reached out to him and he said he would love to come onto the podcast. I was hoping that he wanted to do like a 30-minute thing, because he's a professor. He's busy. But he wants to do the full 3-hour Joe Rogan type thing. So I'm gonna reach back out to him and figure something out, set something up. Probably not the next episode, Dr. Dre, but we'll probably do the episode after that. So in a couple weeks, we'll get that set up. We have a few more. My friend Lauren said that she knows a guy that would be great on the podcast because he and I would disagree on just about everything. And not to say that I'm like looking for somebody to disagree with, but naturally, if you disagree with somebody, I tend to think that the conversation is just ready to be had about whatever it is. So I think I'd like to have whoever Lauren's friend is. I forget his name. But if any of you have anybody that you would like to hear in the greater Grand Rapids area, or if any of you would like to be on the podcast, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my Instagram down below, and you can reach out to me that way. The artwork, I don't know if I addressed this in the last in the last episode, but I'd like to get some artwork, like an original artwork, like logos and that kind of stuff, promotional stuff. For the podcast. And I reached out to a friend and a former colleague, and she's agreed to do it. I don't know if she's going to charge me, but she agreed to do some sketches for me in this like kind of particular style that I want. And we'll see where it goes from there. So hopefully that'll be wrapping itself up soon. I have to reach out to her. We got the social media. We got the Instagram. I guess the more content that I make, the more stuff I can put on the Instagram. So yeah. We also got the locals. I'm gonna put a link down in the description for the locals community that I put together. At this point, it's I think $4 a month for bonus episodes, content, and to engage with others in the community. If you would like to see this podcast grow, if you would like to see me get better equipment and the ability to buy time to do this, I would happily appreciate your support. But that is not the end goal of this. We are really just dicking around with a microphone and a camera and GarageBand. That's what we're doing. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not in it for the money. Yes. Let's do a little bit of a life update. Where should we start? New semester started I guess not this week, but the past week. And I'm taking 17 credits, and I have a lot of work to do. And I already feel busy. But I have to pass all my classes this semester, and then I will graduate in May. And once I graduate, well, hopefully I'll have a job lined up before then. But hopefully I'll have a job. I'll find a place to live, and my fiance and I will get married in November. So it's a big year. And a rough start to the year in terms of sports. This past weekend, the Detroit Lions lost, which was sad. And Notre Dame lost in the national championship, which was heartbreaking. And Manchester United lost, which was embarrassing. And, oh man. That team causes me to despair, I'll tell you. We got an oil change. We got an oil change in the van, and I mentioned last time that I had the opportunity to either buy podcast equipment or get an oil change. So, fear not, we got the oil change eventually, and I'm happy about that. There's some things that I wanted to talk about before we get into kind of what's next. But I'd like to talk about this experience that I had this past week of a man refusing the food that I was offering him. So let me set it up. The background for this is my fiance and I, we were at Meijer, and she was getting her groceries, and I was just tagging along, little Meijer date, and I was hungry, so I picked up. Meijer has these wonderful little to-go entrees of fried chicken, and it's a good deal. You can get I think you get like a 6-piece for, I don't know, $5, $6, something like that, and a good fried chicken as well. It's hot, it's fresh, it's good, and we're, check out, get to the car, all that kind of stuff. As we're pulling up to the road to turn on out of the parking lot, a gentleman is standing on the side with a sign and raggedy clothes and all this kind of stuff. And I could only assume he's homeless or just really poor. And I roll down the window. Sir, how are you? He goes, well, I'm pretty cold. Do you have any cash on you? No, sir. I have no cash. I have no change. Can I offer you some fried chicken? And he said, no, I don't need your fried chicken. I need your money. And I didn't like that. Because he's literally breaking the rule that beggars cannot be choosers. I didn't like that at all. And so there are beggars that are picky. And then I also thought about how, like, some people who beg, and it's not just exclusive, it's not just exclusive to people who beg. It's not exclusive to people who beg, but it's like just anybody in some sort of desperation. Oftentimes they'll violate their own principles and sell their moral worth to get ahead. And yeah, homeless people do that. People who are begging, they'll do that. They'll degrade themselves. But it's more rewarding when you come across a beggar and, they're just... I don't know. I've never really had to experience the principles of a beggar before. I've never asked them to do anything crazy. But I'm sure they're out there. Yeah. But I felt bad for this man. And I was, thinking about what would I do if I was in his shoes. Well, the first thing that I would do is I would take this piece of fried chicken that's fresh and hot and greasy and especially when it's cold outside and you're hungry, you would eat this fried chicken. So yeah. But if he would have, I don't know, if he would have come to me and he would have said, I need a pack of cigarettes. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. I'd still probably end up buying him, or at least letting him bum one. But if he wanted a 40 of something, I probably wouldn't give him a 40 of something. But I wouldn't buy him drugs. But food, I'll hand you the food. But if you wanted money for food, I'm saving you a step by handing you the fried chicken directly. Beggars cannot be choosers, man. I want to talk about, one of my buddies asked me whether or not medieval peasants were better off than us. Because he saw something that basically said that they got like 150 days off in a year. And it would make sense to me. The Catholic Church was pretty crazy with the amount of feast days that they would have, and I think we lost something there. But basically, he was convinced that medieval peasants were better off than us because they got more time off. And they were able to have so much time off because it wouldn't take away from fulfilling their needs. And that made me think, it doesn't seem straightforward to me that a medieval peasant was better off than I was, but I could definitely see somebody making the case. And okay, so this is the thing. Medieval peasants didn't have the things that I love, which is air conditioning. They didn't have scotch, as far as I could tell. They had mead, but they didn't have scotch. They didn't really have teeth. Did they have private property? I believe they did. I think that's what the guild was. Was that, everybody's in the guild and they have their own, like, shack. But they share the means of production. I don't know. Somebody's got to correct. I'll do some research next time and we'll figure out what actually, let's just do it now. What is a guild? A medieval association of craftsmen or merchants often having considerable power. An association of people for mutual aid or the pursuit of a common goal. The purpose of a guild is to promote the economic interests of the members as well as to provide protection and mutual aid. Yeah, I mean, okay, cool. So, yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. And, so you had that. And I think nowadays, I think we have it more than we realize now. Like I can go to a buddy's and ask him if I can use his drill or, something like that. So I just don't think we do that as much. I think now because we have an abundance of wealth, we just go out and we buy our own stuff. But if I needed, some tool or something, I'd just go ask my friend. And yeah. But I don't know, peasants didn't have, we have a very advanced healthcare industry. But yeah, I just think maybe we just work much more than we did. And that maybe that's not good. And maybe we only work so much because we have so many things now that make little points throughout the day easier. Like we have microwaves, we have dishwashers, we have laundry, washers and dryers. We have television. So we have all of these things that we have podcasts. We have all of these things that fill the void of what we're doing in between when we're not working to provide for these things. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm getting my point across. So yeah, I don't know. Were medieval peasants better off than us? Well, I can eat pad thai now, but I don't think a Scottish peasant could eat pad thai back in the day. So, but also a medieval peasant got 150 days off during the year. So, depends on what kind of life. Do you want to live the life of a medieval peasant in a very slow life where you possibly die at 30? Or would you rather work until you're 65 and then live in a nursing home when your kids forget about you? That's not true, but, it happens at some point. How long have we been going here? 25 minutes. I think we're making good time here. Do we need a mission statement? That's one of the things I was thinking about. Was whether or not we need a mission statement. Something like, the Gadfly and the people is brought to you to blah, 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 blah. That actually, I'd be okay with that as a mission statement. The Gadfly and the people is brought to you to blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is. Who knows? No, that's a poor mission statement. If we want a mission statement, I'll put a poll or something somewhere for people to access and be like, do we need a mission statement? And if the people say yes, then we'll do one. If the people say no. But if the people say yes, then I have to come up with a mission statement. So maybe we'll have a mission statement next episode. Stay tuned for that. I did, if you go to my locals, you'll see that I did some phone calls to some friends to figure out what would be the first movie for a movie review. And the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring was the first movie that was voted in. It won with a whopping 2 votes. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to. I think I might just pick this movie or that movie to review, whichever one gets the most. Maybe something like that. So, little movie review. I mean, I don't want to do the whole thing, but just like the things that stood out to me, I guess are what I want to talk about. And I don't want to do it necessarily in comparison to the book, but I think I'm going to be making some comparisons with the book. I mean, naturally, you have to in a movie that's taken from a book, adapted from a book. So the first thing, and this is, I guess, a critique of both the movie and the book, is the fact that Mordor is a perfect square. You ever notice that? Oh yeah, let me see. I have this edition. Let's see. I'm not gonna show you. I'll find a clip of it and put it in the video. Mordor is a perfect square, and I don't know if I like that because you'll never see something like that. Maybe that's not true. Hold on a second. Okay, so going back now, I take it back. There's nothing wrong with Mordor being a perfect square. I mean, Michigan's the shape of a hand, and Turkey is kind of a perfect rectangle when you think about it. And if you actually do, I saw a graphic one time. Somebody put a map of Europe over top the map of Middle Earth, and basically the Shire is in the English countryside, which makes a lot of sense, and Mordor is in Turkey, which kind of gives you a perspective of how far they had to travel. And I guess if Turkey's a perfect square, and that's about as far as they would have to travel, then well, Turkey's not a perfect square, but it's squarish like Mordor is. So I guess I don't really have a problem with that. But I was thinking, you don't see something like that naturally occurring, topographically. But and that maybe it's a reflection of the unnaturalness that is evil. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think it's, like everybody says, it's a great introduction to the world. I think the shots are great. The CGI is still really good, if you ask me. And the music is fantastic. Excuse me. The acting is good as well. A lot of people have a problem with the fact that Tom Bombadil was cut out. I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it. He's a hard character to... Of course, Hollywood's going to try to, take out the most virtuous character in the books. As well as it also made all the rest of the characters much less virtuous, I mean, now I'm just thinking about the whole series of movies. They made Sam really bad. They made... not really bad, but... I don't like that. I don't like that method of developing characters. Having to have them, fall and get back up. Why can't you just have a person of virtue to emulate? That's kind of what the saints are, though. I don't know. Gandalf falling into darkness, into shadow is always a tearjerker. So, just the music is sad and all that. And the acting is so good. Sean Astin is incredibly underrated as an actor. I think those were definitely his best movies. Rudy was pretty good as well, but sports movies are always hard. I put a joke in here that says Boromir was a traitor and deserved to die, but I can't say that. He was cool. We're all kind of like Boromir, literally. And he has his confession before dying, but he died a good death. That's all a man can ask for. Yeah. That and a sandwich. Frodo was about to ditch everybody, and that's pretty dumb. If I was going to walk, 1,000 miles to destroy a magical, powerful ring, and also the prospect of evil, I'd at least want somebody with me for the ride, and also somebody who's, optimistic and resourceful. Sam can cook. He's got all the pots and pans. He'll go to war for you. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. Excuse me. So, yeah, if I had to go through that kind of existential dread, I'd want a friend with me. So, I was thinking about doing a book reading from Plato. Kind of give you guys further background on the name of the podcast. Yeah, I think I'm going to start from up here. This is from Plato's Apology. Socrates is giving an account or a defense of... he's given an apology. Just being like... Because in an apology, you kind of explain yourself. Why you did what you did. Why you said what you said. So that's what he's doing here. To the people of Athens who have accused him of corrupting the youth. He goes on, he says, Now if by saying that I corrupt the young, this advice must be harmful, but if anyone says that I give different advice, he is talking nonsense. On this point I would say to you, men of Athens, whether you believe Anytus or not, whether you acquit me or not, do so on the understanding that this is my course of action, even if I am to face death many times. Do not create a disturbance, gentlemen, but abide by my request not to cry out at what I say, but to listen. For I think it will be to your advantage to listen, and I am about to say other things at which you will perhaps cry out. But by no means do this. Be sure that if you kill the sort of man I say I am, you will not harm me more than yourselves. Neither Meletus nor Anytus can harm me in any way. He could not harm me, for I do not think it is permitted that a better man be harmed by a worse. Certainly, he might kill me, or perhaps banish or disfranchise me, which he and others may think to be a great harm, but I do not think so. I think he is doing himself much greater harm doing what he is doing now, attempting to have a man executed unjustly. Indeed, men of Athens, I am far from making a defense now on my own behalf, as might be thought but on yours, to prevent you from wrongdoing by mistreating the God's gift to you by condemning me. For if you kill me, you will not easily find another like me. I was attached to this city by the God, though it seems a ridiculous thing to say, as upon a great and noble horse which was somewhat sluggish because of its size and needed to be stirred up by a kind of gadfly. It is to fulfill some such function that I believe the God has placed me in this city. I never cease to rouse each and every one of you, to persuade and reproach you all day long, and everywhere I find myself in your company. When I was recording this earlier, I didn't like the first recording. I didn't like the lighting. So when I was recording this earlier, I read a longer version of it, and I realized I think some of it might not be applicable. But there's one line that I would like to read from that section, because I think it's good. To fear death, gentlemen, is no other than to think oneself wise when one is not, to think one knows when he does not know. No one knows whether death may not be the greatest of all blessings for a man, yet men fear it as if they knew that it is the greatest of evils. Yeah. That's basically the inspiration for the podcast right there. There's also some parts in that section that I didn't read earlier. Basically, Socrates is saying that he would rather obey the gods, particularly the god Apollo, that he thinks instructed him to live the life of the philosopher, to practice philosophy, and to question everybody. He thinks that was ordained to him, and he would rather obey the god than he would the people of Athens. And the reason being is that the city of Athens the men of Athens are basically saying, you're an atheist because you don't believe in the gods. And he's like, I'm doing what I'm doing because a god told me to, kind of thing. So, and again, this is the Gadfly and the people, and I am the self-proclaimed Gadfly, but I am in no way saying that I am like Socrates. No, again, as I said before, I don't know if I said this before, but there are only 3 things that I share with Socrates, and that's being poor, asking too many questions, and being ugly. Oh, that's not true. Yeah. But I chose that as the name of the podcast. I don't know. I think it's cool. So yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're going to do moving forward to kind of keep the podcast, keep it growing, get more listeners. And not to say that this is all just about getting listeners. It's about growing in community as well, which I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do that. But we need a start. We need a base, and a couple episodes I think will give us a good base. But the word of mouth thing is definitely working. I think really, the community that I'm in has done its job in saying, hey, this guy has a podcast. You should check it out. So we're going to continue with the word of mouth thing. Maybe should we put together like some flyers? Should we put together like some cards? Be like, listen to this podcast. I don't know. I'll put together some stuff and maybe I'll show it to you guys next episode, and we'll see what happens. I know I said I was going to close with a reading, but now I want to close with a quote that I found by an Irish poet and novelist, Peter Kavanagh. I haven't read much of his stuff. He has some good poetry. I do like his poetry. This isn't itself a poem, but it's poetic, I guess. Although the literal idea of the peasant is of a farm laboring person. In fact, a peasant is all that mass of mankind which lives below a certain level of consciousness. They live in the dark cave of the unconscious, and they scream when they see the light. Sounds like Kavanaugh and Socrates are trying to do the same thing, which is to go into the cave. If you're familiar with the allegory of the cave, they don't make sense. We talked a lot about peasants. We talked a lot about what a peasant is today. And is a peasant somebody without air conditioning and a 401k, or is it maybe something more fundamental than that? Something to think about. Thank you for listening to this second episode of the podcast. I'm hoping to have this out relatively soon. I think by the time I'll have it out, it will be past when I would have wanted to have it out. So, thank you for listening to this episode. Share with your friends. And we can keep doing this. So, thank you. God bless.